Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of Connect with the Quran. And you're here with Najma, and we are looking at Surah Kaf for the past few episodes. And inshallah, we're on the last story. And so let us just listen to a bit of from there. It's from Ayah 83. And so, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
ويسألونك عن ذي القرنين قل سأتلو عليكم منه ذكرا إنا مكنا له في الأرض وآتيناه من كل شيء سببا فأتبع سببا.
Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So here on Ayah 83 we start the fourth story, and it starts with yasalunaka an Dhul Qarnayn. So this phrase is also beautiful for you to sort of take in. Yasalunaka, it came when we did in Surah Bani Israel, Surah Isra, yasalunaka anir ruh. They ask you about the ruh. So here this is Allah's way of many ways of talking in the Quran about. Here he's saying that they ask you, yasalunaka, they're asking you about Dhul Qarnayn. So here they're asking you, you didn't know anything about him. Here's Allah telling you about him. So tell them that I will tell you something about his story. Okay, so this is one of the questions the Yahud asked the Quraysh, the mushrik of Makkah, to ask Rasulullah, egging them on that if he says he is a Nabi, the Rasul, ask him. He should know about these things then. So Allah says it, yes, because he is only recipient of the wahi, and he says only what comes to him. He doesn't invent things from himself. So this is the start of the fourth story. On the third story, the fitna that we get out, you should even think or ask children. You know, sometimes asking questions is the best way for it to penetrate in us. So clearly I didn't give it in wholesome way of, I just thought you need to look at what the fitna is. So in the third story with Musa alayhi salam, with those three events that happened with him, is the fitna of ilm. The fitna of ilm being that we think we know it all, we think we are it. There is a fine distinction between ilm and wisdom of how to know it. That's for us. For there Allah told him, I gave him ilm to the servant of ours from myself and from something special. So we're not questioning that ilm or creating a fitna out of that. No, but it is for us to know that Musa alayhi salam was first the leader, and he had a fityatun, a lad attendant for him. He didn't take him to task, he didn't call. Yet when he was a student and the conditions were laid, don't ask questions and so on, and he breached on that, that was the lesson for us to take. What are we doing with the knowledge that we gain? Are we spreading, being more rumor mongers? Are we successful in, as soon as we hear something, we WhatsApp it on, we do forward it on, that without checking? And sometimes, invariably, it comes back, that was just a hocus pocus, it was photoshopped, it was not true, so on and so forth. So really the onus on us, we need to be so careful as people of students of ilm, of wanting it, make sure that we are not escalating the wrong information that goes out. So those are the things. That's why after every time, we really need to need to ask for forgiveness, need to check with Allah. Allah, make it be that I haven't said anything that derails anybody else, because then I'm going to be accountable for it. Allah, forgive me for it, and may it not happen. So anyway, here's a story from 83, and we're in the last passage. It ends off at 110, and this story goes on to up to 98 from 83. And the beautiful thing that is that Allah says that we established him, inna makkanna lahu fil ard, we set him up in the dunya with all the power, and وَآتَيْنَاهُ min kulli shay'in sababa, and we gave him the ways and means to all ends. We really empowered him with everything possible. Now this is a word which I want to draw out and to extrapolate from it from where I heard it, and that's sababa. When you are given sabab is the means for which you can do things. Unfortunately, in English here it's translated as there's another way he followed. That's what they've translated at. But actually, it's saying that he used certain means. He got to a place where there was murky water, and he found a people, and Allah told him what you can do with them, and he said, if they're good guys, I'll reward them. If they're bad guys, I'll give them a punishment, and they'll be punished further in 87, and so on. And then it says again in 89, the same phrase is repeated. It thumma adba thababa. Then he took the translation. I don't care for it. It just says he took another way. But then he used different means. Then when he came to these people from the rising of the sun, he had a different set of means of what he had, and he saw that there was a people who we had not provided covering for. Now there's a lot of historical background of where people said he went west, then he went east, and this is what he found, a people. And then in 91 that they had no covering, and he knew what was there, and he let them be. So again, the point is, Allah has given you, he did this, then he did this, and then he did another one and then in 892, the third time, ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ. He came to a place where between the two mountains, there was a track between, and he found a people who could scarcely understand a word. But still, however, they still said, قالوا يا ذو القرنين إن ياجوج وماجوج مفسدون في الأرض. So it's fasad, the Ajuj Majuj, the Gog and the Magog are creating fasad. So Ya Zul Qarnain, you please help us to keep them out of our hair, to keep them out of our land. So he then constructed the wall. He said, bring me molten, and he said, and we will reward you. That's a beautiful thing. And you might what will we do? That we may render tribute to you if you will help us do this. So he says in 1895, the power which Allah has given me is better than anything you might be able to give me, but you can help me with labor, bring me the bellows, the molten thing, and between these two mountains, I'll construct a structure like a vault-like, metal-like, triple-layered wall deep down, and it says that they will be powerless to scale it, come over it, or dig under it, because you can also get through. We know in South Africa that the doors on your house, they can be pulled off their railing and be derailed, and then you can get thieves can get access. But that's besides the point. But so anyway, so from 95, 96, 97, he said this is a mercy from Allah, and they will be kept out as long as they're meant to be kept out. And when the day comes that we will let them surge back onto you like waves upon waves, and when the trumpet is blown. So the background is Ajuj, Majuj, Gog and the Magog are one of the signs of Qiyamah. That's when it's going to happen. Some people say it's these people. Some people say it's something else. Some people want to consider it even the viruses, the COVID. Those are kind of Ajuj, Majuj. But that is not for me to get into. I don't know anything on that. But there are many theories. You can check on it, or just be trusting. The best thing is, if that's what it is, again, back to that's what's going to happen. It's one of the signs of Qiyamah. If I think all the signs of Qiyamah are coming up now, that then let me jack up my act and just be a better person. And I'm always using me for all of us to think of that really the only person we have control over is ourselves. Ourselves, maybe inshallah our families. So those are the people we need to be having our clout on to let me improve myself. So that is what is going to be. So there is mentioned, I suggest that you go try to find out, where's Ajuj Majuj is mentioned twice in the Quran, elsewhere again, of what they will do. And but in this story, the Summa Adba Sababa that he used means from what Allah gave him, he used. We end up wasting. How much we waste? We waste water, we waste electricity. It's only when we have power out, and then you have to use your generator, your inverter. Then you're careful and you're closing off, switching off all the lights that you don't need maybe. You're making sure the fridge is off, or this is off, or that is off. Then we suddenly start trying to maximize. You know, that's a beautiful economics thing, that it's only on the last liter of water is more precious than when I had a whole tank full. So we need to be designed to not waste, and we do that when we are on the whether we are on Umrah, Haram, on the flight, on anything. How food gets wasted, how food gets just wasted. It's also because in the restaurants you can't recycle it. You know, somebody might get sick, so it just gets thrown, especially in the West. So the thumma atba sababa, then he used another means. So the means that you used is maximizing on what you can do. So with that, I'm going to just go for an ad break, and then inshallah when we come back we'll just take it a bit further. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. We are looking at Surah Kahf, the last story of Zulqarnain, was mentioned, who the Yahud had asked the Quraysh to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he says he's the Nabi, then ask him about Zulqarnain. So here the story has been given, and we said how Allah empowered him and what he did and so on. And the phrase that comes up 3 times in it is summa atba thababa. And I'm just going to read you a poem of how it's encapsulated to make it be pertinent for us today. So it says, carbon footprints, thumma atba sababa. Follow the way, be ready for sajda. Use of resources to best capacity, recycle, maximize, and learn frugality. Carbon footprints can't justify piety, nor merrymaking, music, or gaiety. Wrappings, plastic, fancy packaging needn't define the status. It's so damaging. Carbon footprints, a modern term or ingrained in the believer's pot and urn. Israf abhorred, israf means wastage. Israf abhorred, balance maintained, no gluttony, whim or desires. Carbon footprints for many a Hajj, from some things it's so difficult to budge. Fuel consumption, packed freezers and fridge, trees cut down to build on the ridge. Carbon footprints, what a legacy. So much disparity, such discrepancy for children and the rest of humanity. The earth abused, oh never mind. Carbon footprints boggle the mind. How is it that we can be ever so blind when for ourselves we are so prone to stock up? If it's for free, there's no need to clear up. Consumption and consumerism at its max. Concern and consideration very lax. It takes nothing to use the phone or fax. Blazing lights, water wastage, and no tax. So that was just a brief encapsulation of what you can take from the concept of thumma atba sababa, of non-wastage. And these are all the things how we are leaving a carbon. It's just a modern term of carbon footprints, but we as Muslims were very good at recycling, are very good at reusing things to the best way. So, and what is the take-home message from the story of Zulqarnain? It's a 4th story. The first was about the fitna of being young and derailing. The second is the fitna of wealth, having wealth and derailing. The third is the fitna of knowledge and that leading you astray. So be careful, just because I'm a university graduate or I have this or I have that, that is also fitna. And now in this 4th one is of power. And we see that again, very relevant in today's current affairs, is the power they think they have because of their ammunition, because of whoever backing they have, the Israel, the Zionists, and they think that's going to save them, and they want to just annihilate the Palestinians. And the corollary is they epitomize the best of us, and they want the land right there, but it's for all Muslims. So the fitna of power, may Allah keep us safe, whether me at my home with my workers, my gardener, my worker, my this or that, what is my behavior like with them? Am I being oppressive? What am I doing? So just take heed of what you can, of power and how you run it. So that is basically on this fourth story. And now again, there's a little passage like we had in the beginning, the first 10 ayahs of giving you what the story is going to go to. Now we have at the tail end from ayah about 100, and we will present to the unbelievers everything to see, and how they had been veiled from the truth, from remembrance of Allah, and they were unable to hear. So it's all these fitnas, all this arrogance that prevents us from seeing. And so there's a passage from 102 to 105 about those who deny the signs, how their deeds are going to be lost. And this comes again and again. Those who think they're doing some good, but it goes up in smoke. So, وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ, what really remains is the goodness that you do and what gets entrenched. So also be watchful of what we think we are doing good and what is actually good. And just pray that Allah puts barakah in our time, in what we do, in how we portray ourselves. Let us not get hooked in just because the West does certain things, we need to emulate that in order to have impact. Just because their propaganda machine is so good, we need to also Photoshop photographs and to make it so we get some sympathy. No, we needn't follow into their way of doing things. We need to stay solid and firm on the way Allah tells us to do. And whether somebody else sees it or not, we know why we're doing it. We're doing it for Allah's sake. So this is from about 100 up to 105, and because they took our signs, ayati wa rusuli huzawa, because they mock. And even now, you can see mocking. Somebody came up with telling it how they thought, oh well, these these terrorists. That's how they're calling us, the mujahid, and so on. So astaghfirullah, just that's another thing, but it's the mocking that is one of the landmarks of kufr, of getting there, of mocking, of making fun, of deriding people. So all that against arrogance is now coming out of the story from Zulqarnain of don't be in arrogance. He wasn't. And then the beautiful ayahs after that, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْفِرْدَوْسِ نُزُلًا. And as for those who believe and do good deeds, for their entertainment we have the gardens of paradise, the Jannatul Firdaus, that's the best one that we want to. And then it goes on to say, خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا لَا يَبْغُونَ عَنْهَا حِوَلًا. And they will dwell there, there'll be no change, and they'll get everything they wish for. That's how this surah is beautifully ending, on giving good tidings to the Muslim. And then the beautiful 109 is so beautiful. It goes on, قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ الْبَحْرُ مِدَادًا لِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّي لَنَفِدَ الْبَحْرُ قَبْلَ أَن تَنْفَدَ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّي وَلَوْ جِئْنَا بِمِثْلِهِ مَدَدًا. And it says that if all the oceans were ink to write the words of our Rabb, sooner would the oceans be exhausted than the words of our Lord, even if you got another ocean full to make into ink. This goes on. I remember when we were doing it at a course about how, this room, you can describe it and you can go to the infinite. Yes, I can say the big things, but it goes into infinity. You can be at the cell level, even our own bodies. Yes, I'm blue, brown, this and that, tall, short, but then you can go into my organs are this, and this is my veins and the blood cells. So if I can endlessly be describing the room or myself, that's at some point I come to an end. But the words of Allah, kalimatu Rabbi, and this phrase also comes twice about oceans, the trees being made into ink, and the sea being made into the sea being made into ink, and the trees being made into pen to write Allah's words. Allah's marvels will never end. So that's just a very good. For me, I think it's a way of looking at solace that don't think anything of Allah ends. It's just endless and priceless. And then the very last one is قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. And say, I am but a man just like you. قُلْ أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ, like you. يُوحَى إِلَيَّ. The difference is what has happened. The wahi has come to me. يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. That I need to let you all know that your Rabb is one Rabb. Your Ilah is one God. And فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ. And anyone who desires, who has this raja to want to, desires to meet, to see his Rabb, what must he do? فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. He must act good deeds, وَلَا يُشْرِكْ, and make sure وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا, that he must not do shirk with him and include anybody else. And what is it? And the shirk comes in the form of my beauty, my youth, that becomes a form of shirk. My wealth becomes a form of shirk. My knowledge becomes a form of shirk, and my power becomes a form of shirk. I am more dependent on thinking my youth. And young people, you can see how sometimes they get a bit arrogant, like they know it all. You old buddy, you're not going to move. All these are forms of shirk, of we thinking we own something, or we have independent control away from Allah. So the whole surah starts from the concept of annihilating shirk in the beginning, of thinking that Allah has got a God, and bringing in Tawheed, and so it ends. So these beautiful last two ayahs I love, but even from ayahs, the last 10 ayahs, if you can, from 100 to 101, if you take it, and if you memorize these also, it's a beautiful thing to do. That is in the hadith. The first 10 or the last 10, if you memorize them, it's good for you and it will safeguard us. And for those of us who haven't memorized it, I read it every Friday, hoping to benefit from it and remember the lessons of it, and may it seep into me to get me rid of arrogance. So that's on Surah Kaf, that I did belabor it, but I love the surah also, and I think, and I've only given it to you in a nutshell, in a recap moment. So find wherever you can. There are beautiful mufassirs out there, beautiful lessons from there. So if you can take it, maybe something will help you connect better with the Quran. So with that, I'll take your leave, and I just pray and to Allah to forgive me for all the wrong I have done or said or pronounced in the wrong way, and you also, and just you pray for me as I pray for you, dear listeners, and may Allah guide us to connect with the Quran in the best of ways. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
ha 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 ha